Hello, Internet. I am an idiot, and welcome back to Agree to Disagree. It's like the argument clinic, except without the benefit of John Cleese. Today, I have a guest with me that you might be familiar with, you might not be familiar with, but he's the beautiful, the wonderful, the inspirational, the Jewish friend of mine by the name of the Finer Print. Oh, wait, no, we're not friends. No, we're acquaintances. The Jewish acquaintance of mine, the Finer Print.
Hi, everybody. I'm the Finer Print. How are you doing?
I hope they're doing well, because I'm doing well. I mean, after all our technical problems, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine, Manic. Everything okay with you?
I'm doing much better now. Apparently getting ready to go out and cause some illegal chaos and activity. I got my gloves on, not leaving any fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you are unfamiliar with this show, this is a debate situation where if essentially we take a topic and we go back and forth on what the positions are. And of course, in order to have a good debate, you need to have both sides of an argument. And in this case, that means somebody may end up taking a position they don't particularly want. Today, we are going to be talking about the impeachment of Donald Trump, President Donald Trump. Got to give him the respect because he is president.
Yes, he is.
So
Until they impeach him.
So if you're not familiar with the rules, there are no real rules. Basically, we're just going to argue until somebody concedes or until we run out of time and we agree to disagree. Oh my God, that was a wonderful name plug.
No, it isn't.
Hollywood would be proud. Fuck you.
No, it isn't.
No, but fuck you. It was an amazing thing. You're not just allowed to argue anything. Agree with me right now or I'm kicking you off the show.
Okay.
That's right. That's conceding to the argument. He is.
I have conceded to the argument. Just for the record, let's set the record straight. I have conceded. Manic,
Perfect.
Your move.
Awesome. So if you are not subscribed to the Finer Print, his information, his YouTube channel, and his Twitter account will be in the description box below, as well as his Patreon account if you feel like giving him money. And let's be perfectly honest, he would probably spend it better than you would. So go ahead, give him some money. I'm all about sharing,
Sharing the wealth.
Exactly so. So we are doing the topic of impeaching President Donald Trump. Which side would you like to take, Finer Print?
I am opposed to the impeachment of President Donald Trump.
Ah, damn it. So am I. But all right, fuck it. I will take the unpopular notion of we should impeach him right now because he's a dick. In order for us to actually engage in this argument, we're going to have to actually go over what impeachment means, because I think everybody just thinks we need to arrest Donald Trump. So what I have is the legal standard and procedure of presidential impeachment. Doesn't that sound so exciting?
I'm shivering with anticipation.
I have a hard on myself. I am ready. So I'm going to read this out really quick.
Correct.
I'm going to read this out really quick so that everybody knows what it is and that we are on the same page of what we can impeach Donald Trump for.
Yep.
The involuntary removal of a sitting president of the United States has never occurred in our history. That's right. We didn't even impeach Nixon. He resigned before the vote actually happened.
Yep.
And the only two who have ever been pushed forward with an impeachment was Bill Clinton and Andrew Johnson, and both were acquitted.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind. It's no sitting president has ever been kicked out of office. So we're going for a first here.
Yep.
The only legal way such can be accomplished is by the impeachment process. This article discusses the legal standard to be properly applied by the U.S. House of Representatives when voting for or against articles of impeachment, and members of the U.S. Senate when voting whether to convict or remove from office a president of the U.S., as well as the procedure to be followed. Article 1.
Section 2.
Okay, Section 2 of the United States, you're way smarter than me, of the United States Constitution gives the House of Representatives the sole power to impeach, make formal charges against, and Article 1, Section 3 gives the Senate the sole power to try impeachments. And Article 2 of the Constitution provides as follows. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. So, what does high crimes and misdemeanors mean? Do you know?
Well, essentially, it's anything that is not treason or bribery. Actually, if you look into it, it can be anything. In the case of William Jefferson Clinton, it was sexual indiscretions
No,
and potential sexual
no.
harassment. Yes.
It was perjury and obstruction of justice.
That was not the charges that he was brought up for. He was brought up for a sexual assault charge by Jennifer Flowers back in '88, I believe, or something like that. And she was the one who brought the impeachment proceedings forward. But afterwards, he perjured himself when he said, "I did not have sexual relations with this woman." 2 days later, we did have intimate contact.
Well, I just want to. I mean, granted, I'm using Wikipedia, which is, of course, the end all be all of sources.
Right.
But this is what it says here for President of the United States, Bill Clinton: perjury and
Right.
obstruction of justice.
Yes, he perjured himself by saying that he did not sexually assault Jennifer Flowers.
But that is why he was going up for impeachment. Was for that.
Right.
The actual act of getting a blowjob or sexually assaulting anyone was not why he was impeached.
Right.
It was because he lied about it and
Right.
then tried to obstruct justice.
Damn it, I keep conceding the argument to you, Manic. Stop it.
I know, it's amazing. I'm really good at this job. But really quick, I went over. This was part of my research. I know Wikipedia. I'm sorry. I was kind of getting an idea of what other people have been accused of, and as you can see, one of the ones that I had actually looked at was Harry Claiborne, who was a judge. Now, my question is: are impeachment rules the same across the board?
I don't know.
Meaning the same rules that can impeach a president are the same rules that can impeach a judge. Is that accurate?
That's I think one of the problems that I have in opposing impeachment is that the rules on whether or not you can impeach a president or a sitting president are very vague.
Oh, I know.
It's treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. So
I jaywalked. Get out of office.
exactly. It's so ill-defined, in my opinion. And
here's the thing: it's got to be reasonably well defined. It hasn't happened yet, so clearly, either it's not well defined in the fact that nobody can make it work, or it's not well defined in the fact that it would be abused. But either situation, clearly it's not being abused because it's only a few people have actually been removed, and not one president. It was judges and I think like a senator.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was just curious because the judge the judge I had Harry Claiborne was convicted and removed for tax evasion, which Trump still has not put out his tax records. Correct?
Trump is not under any obligation to put out his tax records.
That's not what I asked. He hasn't put out his tax records
He
yet.
hasn't put out his tax.
Okay, that would be a potential argument.
Hold on. I'll tell you why it's not a potential argument. All of his tax records up to and including 2016 have nothing to do with him being president.
That's not true. Doesn't matter.
That is actually
No. You can impeach a
not in
president.
office.
No, you can impeach somebody of office for crimes in office and prior to.
Where does it say that?
That's what happened to Judge. That's what happened to that judge. He was convicted of tax evasion in a different state, and when he was going up for election, that's when the impeachment process came into play. It's actually considered one of the most like it separated. It created a big divide among senators because they considered it unconstitutional. You should read about it. It's actually very interesting.
No, I'm sure it is, but here's the thing.
I'm just saying there's a precedent set that you can actually impeach somebody for crimes prior to being in office.
I'm not too sure about that when it comes to a sitting president. I don't know that the same rules apply when it comes to a judge or a president. Because right now, what we're looking at right now on your screen is the House of Representatives has the sole power to impeach, make formal charges against, and Article 1, Section 3 gives the Senate the sole power to try impeachments against the president.
Against the
Oh,
president?
hang on. It says that the president,
vice president, and all civil officers of the United States.
Okay.
So I think it's a wide street. If it can be done to a judge, if it can be done to a senator, it can be done to the president.
Okay. So it applies to all of them. Fine. Okay.
Okay. So with that particular setup, and I think that's pretty much all we're going to need for that one. So I'll go ahead and Go ahead and give that a nice little block and go back to our standards. Go back to where we're going to be fighting, intellectual fighting.
Hey now, internet blood sport.
No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. I mean, we can, but I don't want to do that. I want to actually I want to impeach Trump. That's what I want to do. That's where I stand. I'm impeaching Trump, and you're in defense of the man.
Okay, why do you want to impeach Trump?
Well, that's not how this works. I'm actually going to present my argument first because since you represent reality, you represent reality as it stands. My argument intends to change reality by having him removed. So since I'm on the offense in this particular argument, I go first.
Okay.
So when dealing with impeachment, we have to figure out where a crime was committed that would actually be dealing with impeachment. Now we all know that there's a lot of voter fraud going on within elections, and I think this election was a highly contested election on both sides. When Hillary lost, she claimed that it was rigged against her, and then while Trump was running, he was saying it was rigged against him because of how much media was in support of Hillary Clinton and clear in support of the DNC. So at this point, we have two candidates who we could argue have a situation where you could argue voter fraud. Less so for Donald Trump because there's way less obvious evidence of it. But what he knew that Hillary didn't know, because she clearly went for the popular vote, which she won, I think he targeted the Electoral College and the politicians that vote for the Electoral College, which would explain that despite the wide sweeping hate for the man, the sheer disgust and lack of trust in the man, who pretty much everyone agreed probably wasn't too qualified for this job, somehow got the politicians at the Electoral College to vote for him, even though he had lost the popular vote, which is a rare occurrence but not unheard of. I think he ended up greasing the right wheels on that side. So what we now have is we have one candidate using voter fraud in a public forum, using the media, using illegals, using dead people. And then you have another person who focused more on the actual politicians and dealing with them. So here's the question that I wanted to raise in terms of whether or not that would be valid for impeachment. No longer is elections about people, what the people want. If both people can essentially rig the election in their favor based upon who they target more, whether that be the people or the politicians. If you target the people and you get most of the people on board, they can pressure the politicians to vote that way and they go through the Electoral College. Or you can ignore the people and focus strictly on the politicians there. If that is considered voter fraud as well, he should be as ineligible as Hillary Clinton was, making him immediately set up for impeachment. Because
okay, I want to make sure that I understand. You think he committed voter fraud? How exactly?
By targeting and greasing the wheels of the politicians that vote for the Electoral College.
And how do you prove that?
Well, how do you prove the voter fraud using the media, which is the other direction that was offered? Because ultimately, both are based in speculation, so they both are equal.
Okay, you mean the overwhelming media support for Hillary Clinton, or how?
Can you prove that was directly correlated with Hillary Clinton doing that?
Sure. Donna Brazile gave questions to Hillary Clinton prior to one of her presidential debate with Donald Trump. That is collusion between a media entity and a presidential candidate. That is a provable connection. Okay. Now, it may not have anything to do with voter fraud per se, but it's certainly tainting the pool.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that on equal levels, with the exception of what you said, Donna Brazile, who has been, wasn't she also the one who lied about fuck.
It's okay. She lied about a lot of things.
There was a very specific thing that I can't remember that made big news, and
she was a CNN contributor. She was also the head of the DNC. There was a lot of corruption and a lot of conflict of interests going on within the DNC when it came to the Hillary nomination. I was actually there. I was on the ground at the DNC. Okay.
So how do you explain, with that much corruption in the media and that much direct political influence from the Clintons, that he managed to convince the politicians who vote for the Electoral College, who put in that particular vote to get that, because we're in a democratic republic, the popular vote doesn't matter. How did he manage to convince that?
Representative republic, first and foremost. it's not necessarily politicians. If you look at the Electoral College, okay, it's a group of people per state that has the influence to has the influence over the election, but they're not necessarily politicians. They're people who get elected by their peers,
Hmm.
okay, and they are the ones who decide where the Electoral College goes based on the voting records that are coming in from the ballots. Now, yes, he lost the popular vote, but that's only because you had the two coastal major
Who have the
cities,
most? Yeah.
New York and LA, that were voting overwhelmingly for Hillary. But then, if you look at the voting map, you had swathes of red all over the map, everywhere. Trump was focusing on flyover states that Hillary Clinton chose to ignore. That's why he won.
Okay. I think that officially puts at the very least his chances for voter fraud at least to it would have to he would have to be
To
a
a minimum.
mastermind.
To a minimum.
Yeah.
I think that minimizes his involvement directly or indirectly with voter fraud. Whereas with Hillary, you had media tainting of the voter pool by consistently and constantly bombarding everybody. If you were watching CNN, if you were watching NBC, if you're watching MSNBC, ABC News, all of the alphabet soup, except for Fox, mind you, they were all in support of Hillary. They were lying about her numbers. They were lying about her chances. They were lying about Trump's chances. They were lying about his numbers and his influence. Okay. And that is tantamount to voter fraud. Again, not provable in a court of law. Okay. It's
Okay.
not provable in the House Judiciary Committee where the impeachment proceedings are going to be taking place, if they are going to be taking place. It's not taking place in a courthouse, which is another problem that I have with with the impeachment protocols. It doesn't go in front of a judge and a jury. It goes in front of a House Judiciary Committee. It's decided upon by the House and the Senate. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. Well, since my voter fraud theory clearly does not work in this particular case, it probably would have worked a lot better if Hillary had won. I will go with the next direction, which has to
Hmm.
do with the fact that when he was elected, he created a huge amount of divide between people using a lot of his rhetoric, and one of the arguments that was made to have him replaced by all the media figureheads was to have Congress go in and essentially disregard the election, put somebody in who's more qualified, which has nothing to do with impeachment. But I think that it is something that has to do with his ability to lead the country, because ultimately, if you cannot get the bulk of the people to get behind you on anything, even the people who want to support you, some of them are actually afraid to support you. His ideas on, for example, building the wall. We're dealing with a massive international scandal now, and he's been pushing to try to essentially have another country pay for it. Is that correct? Using their labor?
That was his promise to his base. But I think the problem that you're having here is that this is not congruent with the protocols of impeachment.
But my point here that I'm trying to get to, which has to do
Yep.
with the fact that he's going to try to go through non-legal methods to get that done. And that includes essentially overturning a bunch of immigration laws that were established, granted by executive decisions with Barack Obama. He has that right to do that.
Right. If those laws were unconstitutional to begin with, then he has the right to overturn them.
I'm saying his immigration policy is borderline crimes against humanity by separating families that are already here and creating a huge divide in culture by essentially alienating all of Mexican America, or all Mexicans ultimately. And when you're separating families and you're creating because of the loopholes that were created, you're killing people eventually, just because of the fact that you're separating parents from kids who now have no source of income and nothing to do. My argument is his immigration policy has actually pushed beyond to the point of cruelty and is actually a crime against humanity.
Okay. First of all, it has not been defined as such by anyone yet.
I just defined it.
No. I'm saying by any legal authority or by any, let's say, the United Nations, whatever influence they may have. Second of all, I agree with you that it's not a humane policy, but what a lot of people tend to overlook is that it's not his policies that are being enacted right now. Those are previous administration policies of separating children from their families that they're executing by the law. Yeah, yeah. And he's trying to overturn and revise those policies. I don't have a source for this off the top of my head, but that's what I've been told from fairly reliable sources so far. Okay, he's executing the policies of the previous administration, which he's been trying to overturn, not with a small deal of success, I might add.
He's trying to overturn policies that he is currently executing.
Well, he has to. He has to, because even if he tries to overturn a policy, just because he's a president, he doesn't necessarily have the power to do it by fiat every time. Several policies he did overturn by fiat by writing new policies. Other ones have to be revised. Other ones have to be reviewed and potentially replaced. But this is not a clear cut. And again, I'm putting the human cost aside here for a second. We're talking about facts, not feelings. Okay. Illegal immigration. No, illegal immigration is a huge problem in the U.S. You live on the West Coast, if I'm not mistaken.
I do.
Okay, so you see, I think, more clearly and more firsthand than I do. I live on the East Coast. The problems that illegal immigration poses. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so and again, I circle back to what I said before. This has not been defined as an impeachable offense. Let me finish. I'll explain. If it has been defined as an impeachable offense, by all means, go to impeaching proceedings and try him, okay? And he'll have a chance to defend himself. But until it has been defined as an impeachable offense, I'm sorry, you can't do anything. You can protest it. You can write to your congressman. You can write to your representatives. You can, have your congressmen and your senators block legislation. Do the things that are working by the system, by the rules.
Okay.
The impeachment protocol is a severe measure, in my opinion, that can only be employed in severe cases.
Well, what if in this particular case, just to counter your argument, in dealing with, yes, he's going by the law. If it's an inhumane, cruel law, much like many of the laws that were passed by, say, for example, not to add a massive coalition here or a parallel here, the Nazis. All the stuff that they did was, with the exception probably the Holocaust, was by law. If he's enforcing a cruel and unusual law, one that might be even considered unconstitutional, that he is essentially abusing his power, which is and has been a reason for to bring somebody up on the articles of impeachment if they are abusing their power. And right now, I could definitely make the argument that he is abusing his power by using a outdated regulation or laws to help with immigration in a way that is essentially counterproductive to what you just argued, which is him wanting to get rid of them. I would say that he is actually, by using them, proving to the American people that he is not only against Mexicans, he doesn't like any immigrants.
Who does the Constitution apply to?
American citizens.
Okay. So illegal immigrants that are coming here, are they protected by the Constitution?
Entirely depends on how you define it. Because if they're well within the borders, no, let me finish. If they're well within the borders, they are now here.
You just defined it. The Constitution applies to American citizens. They are not American citizens.
But what happens if the bureaucracy of the American citizenship becomes so convoluted you can't actually become an American citizen any other way? It's that whole break the law to change the law situation.
Okay. I'll tell you something, and I won't dox myself. I am an immigrant to the United States. I am a legal immigrant to the United States.
Damn it.
And I know firsthand how difficult it is to obtain citizenship. I have not yet obtained citizenship, but I will eventually. But I'm doing everything that I'm doing above board. I'm doing everything that I'm doing legally. And I have not had any issues from the administration. I've been protected by the Constitution of the United States of America, because I have legal documentation proving that I am a resident legal alien in the United States of America, which grants me all of the benefits and obligations that an American citizen has. People who are undocumented illegal migrants or immigrants are breaking the law, pure and simple. Again, I appreciate your arguments from the human cost side of things. I get that. It's abhorrent to me. Okay. But factually speaking, they are breaking the law. They need to be out of here. Not all immigrants, only the people who are breaking the law. And again, I keep circling back. This has not yet been defined as an impeachable offense. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about immigration control. We're talking about whether or not Trump should be impeached.
Well, if it's a crime against humanity, I would definitely say, or an abuse of power, I would definitely say that would be a reason to impeach him. However, I will have to give you credit that by law and by the fact that, you went through the process, it's really hard to make that argument against what are essentially criminals coming into the country, not by virtue of what they did prior to going from where they were, but by crossing illegally, they have become criminals just by definition.
And look, I know my story is anecdotal. Okay, I'm not trying to, make a case here for all immigrants based on my case history. I'm just letting you know that I have that intimate knowledge. That's all.
But it is good. It is good, and like I said, as much as I like the argument by law as it currently stands, it does not work. I still think that there are probably better ways in which you can deal with illegal immigration that doesn't create orphans out of people who had no wrongdoing whatsoever. They just happened to pop out of the womb.
I agree. You have no control over who you were born to and where you were born at.
Okay, well then let me get to my next argument. Since again you have shot down yet another one. God damn it, you're good at this. You're good at this game. You're good at this game. How did I start out so strong and win so many early arguments?
It's because I wasn't looking at the screen. I was trying to conserve bandwidth, and I didn't look at the screen, and I didn't see what you were screen sharing, so I didn't read the whole thing. So you got the upper hand on me there.
There we go. All right. Well, let's go to the next argument, which is what I would consider probably his biggest fault, which has to do with his secrecy behind his finances. Now, he is under no obligation to expose his finances. However, if there is wrongdoing going on, some kind of fraud or some kind of some financial indiscretion that would be considered illegal, that would definitely be something worthy of the rules of impeachment. So if that were something that if somebody had reasonable doubt to think that he has something to hide, what's especially with him not putting it out, doesn't that just seem like he's hiding something still? Just to start the question. His not being forthcoming with his finances.
Okay. We had this conversation earlier on, and his private finances, I don't think should influence whether or not he can be president or sitting president. That's just my opinion. Okay. I don't know the law on this. I know that the releasing of tax documents as a presidential candidate is done as a courtesy. It is not required. He doesn't have to do it. If he had irregularities, I'm pretty sure that the IRS would have been knocking at his door a long time ago. And actually, if you look at the one tax release from, I think it was 2001 or something like that, that they actually had at NBC with what's her face? I forget her name, with the short hair. It looks like a dude.
Rachel Maddow.
Rachel Madcow, yeah.
Lol cow.
Lol cow. She was so excited. She was holding the tax release form, and lo and behold, he actually paid more in taxes than most people pay in over the course of their lifetime for 1 year.
Okay. Well, I was just that wasn't going to be my main argument. I was just bringing that up as a question to find out if that would be even something I could probably venture down, but it would just fall under speculation anyway because he hasn't released them yet.
Right. If he broke the law, if he evaded income tax evasion and all of that fun stuff, that is an impeachable offense according to the precedents that you found on Wikipedia. Absolutely. But unless he has been, we don't know that, then he should not be impeached.
Very good. All right. Then I'm going to go to my next argument, which is he's mean. He's really mean and he's really rude and he's a terrible fucking politician, and I think that falls under treason or bribery. All right, it took me a second, but I think I come up with another argument. You're making
Go
this
on.
very difficult for me. Find the print. I keep setting up arguments and you keep knocking them down. It's fucking annoying. I'm usually better at this. Here's what I would like to present to you as my last reason for why Donald Trump should be impeached.
Mhm.
There has been clear, defined relationships between him and Russia and his ties to businesses over there, both in his family and in his friends and him personally. This is one of the reasons that they've been running the FBI investigation, which is stalled to damn near a crawl to where nobody knows what's being talked about anymore. And I think that's a concerted effort by the administration to keep that particular fact from coming out. It is
Mhm.
as clear as the media was in bias of Hillary Clinton. It was clear where Russia's bias was, and there was plenty of evidence involving ads, involving people getting spied on, and
Mhm.
you cannot have a foreign diplomat, a foreign situation influencing your election. So clearly he got benefit from Russia, whether he decided that it was just better to ignore it than endorse it. He
Mhm.
never condemned it. So he
Okay.
benefited from it without actually being open about the condemnation of the support he was getting from a foreign dignitary who was fucking with our election. Voter fraud
Okay.
and abuse of power and corruption.
Okay. Van Jones of CNN Galore referred to the Russia collusion matter as a nothing burger. This is coming from the media, which I'll grant you has been lying to the people consistently all the time about everything.
Hmm.
But he was saying this on a candid camera without any teleprompter in front of him, basically saying there's no story here. Now, Trump is a businessman. I don't know if you're aware of that. Before he became president, he's a
What he
businessman.
made he made money? No, I didn't know that. Go, please continue.
I'm just making sure that you're aware of the fact.
I'm well aware. Thank you.
Okay, business people do business. They do business everywhere. They do business all over the world. Sometimes with countries that don't necessarily have this country's best interest in mind. But at the time, he wasn't running for office. So maybe you could make the argument that he has some people trying to influence him. But then again, you also have the Clinton Foundation. Clinton Foundation has received monetary donations to the tune of tens of millions of dollars from foreign governments.
Hmm.
Now, if Hillary had won the election, would you have been making the argument that she should be impeached because she got money from Saudi Arabia?
Absolutely.
Ah, okay. Well, that's fair enough. I'll concede you that point. I'll give you that.
But I would like to make one other little addition to what you were just saying, really
Mhm.
quick in terms of business people. The word businessman and the word that gets thrown around with kind of this nonchalance without really realizing what it means. If you're not familiar with business in any way, you might not know this, but morals, rules, anything that is right kind of gets thrown out of the window when it comes to business. It's all about who can make the profit over your opponent. So if he's a businessman, he is definitely going to use whatever book or whatever trick that is in the book to win him this election, especially if he's coming from a businessman standpoint. So to think that his connections from previous business engagements and before he was in office, that he just you know I'm not gonna. I can't talk to you now, guys. I can't because I'm running for president. If you think that happened, you're naive. I guarantee you,
I
he used every connection in the book to fight off what was essentially, as you mentioned, the Clinton media machine to convince people because it wasn't just his wonderful down to earth rhetoric. He had made
No, it
promises.
wasn't. It wasn't his down to earth rhetoric. And I'll be very blunt here. People were sick and tired. People were sick and tired of 8 years of Obama, and they did not want 4 more years of the same with Hillary. That's to me that was the reason that this election which was a referendum of the American electoral process
But that's the
was
people.
about.
But that's the people.
But
The
the people get to decide who gets to be president.
except that they
The
didn't.
people
Except
vote.
they didn't. It was
Except that they did.
except that the electoral college is the one who decides.
Yeah, but we already defined that the electoral college goes by the will of the people.
And not always. They're not required to, and they didn't this time. Because according to the popular vote, the will of the people, the majority. And granted, like you said, that they're all on the coasts and the blah blah blah, and your map is great. But if you were to take your map and, like, instead of coloring it all red, instead put dots on how many individuals are there, you would have much less red on the map.
Okay, do you know why that is?
There's less people living there.
Do you know why the electoral college exists?
Yes, to make sure that the majority does not outweigh the minority.
Thank you. You just destroyed your own argument there.
No, I didn't. I just
you did.
explained
That's
why
true.
the electoral
Because
college exists. My
the
point
ele-
was
the
your
electoral
argument. No,
college-
stop. Let me finish. Your argument was that the electoral college was the will of the people. Except
Yes.
that's not the case. The electoral college makes sure that the will of the people doesn't abuse the minority. So
Yes.
ultimately, the electoral college is not the will of the people. I would say it's more the will of the Constitution.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
So, my point here is, in order to get that done, you have to target the people who are in charge of the electoral college, or at least have influence into the electoral college. That would be politicians, that would be other businessmen, that would be people who have private interest groups. We're all dealing with individuals who have their own individual interests, and that, that's not a crime or anything.
Mhm.
But how it was done was likely a crime, because that goes back to the foreign influence, and if you're in your connections there, and there clear evidence of trying to push certain people in that direction. And if you're
Okay.
from Russia and you've got a certain commodity that certain politicians over here need, you go, hey, if you vote for Trump, I make it a little easier deal on you.
That's fair. I'll give you that. And like I said before, with the tax evasion, if there is a provable offense, okay, you were saying that it's clearly defined, and then there was collusion, but I have not yet seen evidence to that effect. But if there was a clear violation here, if there was collusion, then yes, that's an impeachable offense. Absolutely, I agree with that. But there isn't any. There's
there's
no
no-
evidence. Now there is something here that Trump could be impeached on, and that is him interfering with investigation.
Well, that was actually where I was trying to get with the FBI situation. Then when I brought up the fact that every time anybody tries to get any information out about it, and how long it's been taking, there's been a lot of clear pushback and political pressure, likely from the administration, to keep this as low key as possible and make sure no information gets out, which, as you said, would fall under obstruction of justice. Now, granted, no politician in history has actually been ousted from their spot due to obstruction of justice. I believe there are like 4 or 5 that have been accused of that. But it's the one thing I want to bring up, very important, and it goes back to what you were saying, kind of the backwards nature of the impeachment process. You
Yes.
don't need proof, just an accusation.
Exactly.
You need enough of the House of Representatives to believe an accusation to push forth to the Senate to make the vote.
Yep.
So the fact that you're going, there's no provable fact or anything, is actually somewhat irrelevant in this conversation, because there is no court of law that would require the evidence to be presented. And as long as you create enough reasonable doubt, and that can be done through mass media, or that could be done through actual examples of, if somebody comes out and goes, this happened here with Trump, and this is clearly the same behavior going on, all you have to do is convince the right people to do that, to be on board with that accusation.
I disagree with you about the lack of need of evidence, because as it happens with the Nixon case, there was evidence.
Mhm.
The reason he resigned was because of the evidence.
Well, the reason he resigned is because he knew that there was no way they weren't going to vote that way because of the evidence. The evidence made it so there was no chance of even buying your way out of it.
But that's the point, is that you do need evidence in order to
But you
level
don't.
an accusation.
Well,
Yes.
no. You don't need evidence to level an accusation. You're just going to need evidence to convince people to join up onto your accusation. Like, it goes back to what I was talking about with the judge. There were a number of people who, since there was no clear definition of what, with the rules of impeachment in terms of previous and crimes in office, they were able to push that through and get him convicted in a unanimous vote. Or no, he wasn't convicted. He was sent forth to the Senate in a unanimous vote. And it created a huge rift in what they considered tearing up the Constitution. So ultimately, there is no, there are no defined rules that you have to follow when it comes to impeachment. Just an accusation.
Yeah, well, if that is the case, if this procedure is so shaky and so muddled and so ill-defined, nebulous, obfuscated, call it what you will, okay? If it's such a bad process, then you know what? Don't even bring it up. If not you specifically, I'm talking about the people who are trying to get him impeached. Okay, don't bring it up. If you can't meet the bare requirements of impeachment protocols, okay, then don't even pursue it. Right now, I think what this country needs more than anything is stability. Okay.
And you think do you think leaving Trump in office would create stability?
I think that there's a lot of division in this country. Yes. Do I think that Trump is the cause of that division? No, I don't.
Okay.
I
All right.
think
Well,
that
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to concede this argument that you win and we shouldn't impeach him under current conditions. However, I would like to state that despite that, I think there's enough that somebody could level an accusation to at least get it going forward.
I think that if you want to engage in an impeachment protocol against President Donald Trump, you need to bring your A game, and it needs to be something a lot more substantial than just I don't like him. He's not my president.
Oh, come on. The mean one. That was a good argument. You got to give me credit for that one. And the fact of the matter is, now that I've conceded, we could talk about this as kind of a more nonchalant way. I went through an hour, almost 2 hours worth of research trying to find some inclination of something that I could actually say was illegal, and I couldn't find anything substantial. I had about 6 notes where I was going, this happened. I know I can kind of bring this up, but everything that I wanted to argue about, I was like, I can't talk about his taxes because we don't know anything about his taxes. There's nothing I could point my finger to. The only thing I could say is he's shady right now.
Okay.
And it's not illegal to be shady.
Yeah, lots of presidents have been shady. Look at LBJ.
Shit, look at fucking Clinton and Obama. Obama was very shady. I mean, granted, he was up front with his financials, but he was very shady with information.
Yeah, George Bush Jr. wasn't smart enough to be shady.
Yeah, he was like, I like the sun, Dad. I don't want to be shady. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice.
Banana.
Well, once you fool me, you can't fool me again. But anyway, I definitely appreciated this debate. I think we've put it to bed that he has, at least under current conditions, as you said, if something new comes to light, we can rediscuss it. But under current conditions, under current information, it would be ill-advised and likely illegal to impeach him under what we know now. So we may have to do a part 2 if some new information comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that.
Would you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, you want to have our next one be whether or not we should get rid of the articles of impeachment, or at least maybe redefine it to where you actually have to go before the judicial branch. Because that was the other thing. No, that was the other thing that was interesting after reading the articles of or reading some of the rules about the articles of impeachment. Supreme Court can't change the decision.
Yeah, that's another problem.
Which is fucking goofy.
Like I said, the whole process of impeachment, which, by the way, was instantiated by Ben Franklin.
Well, it was started in the UK. It was with the House of Commons, and then the House of Lords would vote. But here's the funny thing about that is, kings and queens above the law.
Yeah, monarchs. Fuck you.
I mean, UK tries to tell us, we're barbarians or whatever, we're stupid, and I'm like, dude, you guys gave somebody literally as much right as God, a human being.
Yeah. But I mean, here's the thing: the United States Constitution has a lot of different provisions for a lot of different things. Interestingly enough, impeachment was not something that they uh, uh, um, gave a whole lot of thought to. I think, in my research of this, it was, yes, it was instantiated by Ben Franklin based on UK common law,
Hmm.
but it wasn't developed beyond that.
And still hasn't been.
At least I don't think it has. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a a constitutional lawyer by any stretch of the imagination. Um, but it seems, like I said before, ill defined.
Well, if you look at a lot of the laws that haven't really changed much over the years, like if you were to take copyright laws, just a example, they don't really like to update it. They like the language being vague because it allows for more play.
Yes.
You can argue one way and argue another way, and who just but the more rigorous the language, yes, the better it is to define the law. But I don't think lawyers like that.
Nope. Lawyers like to obfuscate and inveigle and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, bend the rules without breaking him. Anyway,
Yeah.
this has been the Fine the Print. Like I said, please subscribe to his channel. He makes amazing parodies. He makes amazing commentary. You should definitely check him out. Follow him over there on Twitter. And would you like to shill anything coming out here pretty soon for your
Yeah.
channel?
Yes. Every Saturday, at least for now, myself and Big Fat Brian on Weekend Warriors. It's usually at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time. It's gonna be on my channel, and we're just gonna do like a chill stream. Watching funny videos, reading stupid articles, and just shooting the shit. So yeah.
Fantastic. Do you have any songs coming out? I love your fucking music, dude. I'm not kidding. I'm you're I look at your sub count and go, that is a fucking crime.
You know what? I actually want to lay off the parody songs for a little bit. I want to focus back on my channel, and
Fuck.
well, believe me, something will come up that is gonna.
Make them special. Make them special still.
Yeah, I don't want them to become like commonplace. I want them to be unique.
Hmm.
Most of the parody songs that I wrote were context dependent. Something that happened on the internet that like Ice Poseidon and Baked Alaska. That
Mm-hmm.
context, it matters. That's exactly why I wrote that song. Based on the Metallica song.
Well, you
Um,
can still, well, like I said, you don't have to make them just as is. I would do little jingles and shit in your show.
yeah.
Like, instead of do a whole song, take like a chorus bit to where you're making a joke about a thing. That way you have the context of what you're joking about while still doing
Mhm.
parody music.
Yeah, maybe, but really, I want to try and revise what my channel is about at the moment, because response videos are kind of getting blasé. I want to try and move to more of a streaming channel, but I'll still do some videos here and there. That's about it.
Very good. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. You're definitely invited whenever you want. Yeah. Although I am kind of pissed, you're as good at this as I am. Granted, you had the better position. You definitely had the position where more facts and reality.
I had the better position because, like you said, yeah, it's grounded in reality, but it's also I'm a bit of an asshole.
Yeah, but you're good at it. You're good at it, and that's why I'm sure you voted for him too, didn't you? You son of a bitch! You voted for that fucker. Oh wait, you can't vote. You're not an American citizen.
I can't vote.
Damn. You need to get that citizenship finished up so you can take advantage of all the perks.
Let me tell you a little bit of an anecdote here. Okay,
Okay.
my wife is also very much a conservative. She supported Ted Cruz.
Okay.
Okay, she wanted me to commit voter fraud in order for Ted Cruz to have better chances. Okay,
Don't dox yourself.
no, I'm not saying anything.
No, 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 no. I'm just saying with that particular statement, never dox yourself.
I didn't give out any information. She wanted me to commit voter fraud, and I refused.
Well, I give you credit for being an upstanding, legal human being.
Yep.
Virtue signaling fuck.